Hey everybody, this is Tim Charron, and welcome to my brand new podcast called The Charron Zone. Blah, 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 blah. All right, welcome to The Charron Zone. This is Tim, and I am with my friend Dara Kravitz Gottfried. How are you, Dara?
I'm great. Good morning, Tim. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, well, I'm very excited to have you on because, first of all, we met through your lovely sister, who was one of the only sane people that I knew when I lived in Miami Beach.
Jan is the best.
She is. And we used to, go have tea together on Lincoln Road, which I don't think a lot of people do in South Beach, but she's awesome.
I love it. That sounds like my sister.
Yep. So this is basically for people in the music business, but also, really anybody, but people in the entertainment business, stuff like that. So I guess the first thing we can talk about is your Colossal podcast and
Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast.
Exactly. I love it. So, how, if you could explain how you got it started and what, maybe what the process was, if anybody out there is interested in starting a podcast like me, who just started a podcast. So I'm all ears.
I'm still trying to figure it out. It's definitely a work in progress, and there's a learning curve, and it's a bit of the Wild West out there still. But basically what happened was where do I start? A couple of years ago, after Gilbert got let go from Aflac, basically, I introduced him to Frank Santo Padre, who's my co-producer and Gilbert's co-host. They kind of knew each other a little bit before, but basically I put them together to try to collaborate on some stuff. And instead, they spent hours and hours on the phone talking about old Hollywood and show business history and obscure actors and directors. And I basically had no idea what they were talking about, but it was hours on the phone. And I said to them finally, after many wasted hours, I said, why don't you guys start a podcast where you could use it as an excuse to talk to your heroes? My husband, Gilbert Gottfried, is a savant. He's an absolute genius, and the amount of knowledge about Hollywood history that he has in his head is like, it's just ridiculous.
I just like to interject really quick. This is partly why I'm doing this, is so that I can talk to my heroes as well and learn from them. So it's great. What a great reason to start it.
Yeah. So basically, it was just an excuse. Like, this is a reason that you could talk to Janet Ann Gallup, who was the 5-year-old little girl from Ghost of Frankenstein. Why else would you have a reason to pick up the phone and just call? So that's how it started. Frank is an absolute genius savant as well. I mean, he could not be a better co-host. He's incredible. And Frank's a full-time writer on The View. And just, he keeps it together, and Gilbert does his thing. But basically, I had no idea how to start a podcast. And I started talking to people and trying to figure it out. I remember
we spoke, and I had no idea either.
Yeah, it's kind of, you try to sort of figure it out. I remember thinking, how am I going to record people that are in LA and I'm in New York? And I did a bunch of testing different ways to do it, and ended up figuring it out somehow. And our first, we had a couple test runs, and then our first official episode was with Dick Cavett, who came to the house, and that was incredible. And since then, I mean, it's just grown and grown. We've since gotten a real engineer, Frank Verderosa, Frank Santo Padre does hours and hours of research. I do all the bookings and basically produce.
And so at the beginning, did you do the producing as well?
Yeah. I mean, I put everything together. Frank Santo Padre would write the intros for Gilbert and write his blue cards, which were tons and tons of research. Gilbert would basically write some notes on a piece of toilet paper. He's better. He's not good at doing his homework, but he's amazing at just winging it.
To go further, we'll talk about the documentary in a bit, but would he write "fuck you" a lot on his own notes?
No, not really. But basically, since then we've had about 230 guests. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
And about 1 million listens a month, and it's just grown and grown. I mean, who the hell knew that there was a whole audience out there of other people that are like geeky like Gilbert and Frank and just have a passion for this kind of stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's amazing, these niches of people that are so into these things. And of course, obviously a lot of it's really funny. But I got turned on to podcasts and now I'm completely obsessed. I love them.
That's great. What do you like to listen to?
I love Joe Rogan because he has so many different eclectic guests, and you learn a lot from those. And actually Jordan Peterson, Tim Ferriss, guys like that. Got
it. Yeah, ours is we do our own thing. I mean, no one else is really doing what we do. I mean, we've had I think over 10 guests in their 90s. Dick Van Dyke, Norman Lear.
I saw Dick Van Dyke on the documentary, I think.
He was incredible. Gilbert went to his house to do that one in Malibu. He was amazing. God darn. Norman Lear, Carl Reiner. We had Charlotte Ray, who unfortunately just passed away. She was great. I mean, we've had so many directors and then a lot of like contemporary people too, like Judd Apatow was on Josh Groban.
Wow. Have you had Bill Burr on the podcast?
We haven't had Bill Burr on yet, but that would be great.
Yeah, he was in the documentary.
He was in the documentary. Yeah, we've had a bunch of comics. We had Whoopi on and Dave Attell, Artie Lang,
awesome.
Judy Gold, Susie Essman, Jim Norton. Oh my God, so many people.
So how amazing is that?
Howie Mandel and Bob Saget were two of my favorite interviews.
Bob Saget he's nasty, huh?
Jeff Ross. I mean, he was amazing.
Awesome.
We actually interviewed Jeff at his house the day that Frank got married.
Oh, really?
He went right from the courthouse right to Jeff's house, and we recorded the interview. That's commitment.
That's so cool. So now it's so cool because you guys have all of these stories, being generated from the podcast itself. So that's really awesome. And the fact that it's amazing that you basically started putting it together, figuring it out, how to engineer, how to produce it, what equipment to use. And then now you have over 1 million downloads or listeners a month. That's colossal.
It's colossal. It's a lot of fun. It really is. But it's a great team. We have like a groove now. We all we have our lanes that we travel in, and we all do our job, and it works out great. It's become it's really a lot of fun. And Gilbert really enjoys it, and that's what makes me happy to see him happy. It's really a labor of love. You don't get rich doing these things,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The fact that he's having a good time, and you guys are all having a good time, and you get to reach out and hang out to these great people. It's kind of a win-win.
Totally, absolutely, it's great.
Yeah, so I watched the documentary. So if anybody listening hasn't watched the documentary, it is on Netflix, right?
Hulu, actually.
Hulu, okay. And it's simply called Gilbert?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's great because, I mean, for many reasons. What's that?
How'd they get that? How'd they get that name?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. They must have done a lot of research for that. It's brilliant. It's great for many reasons. You get to really, you get to meet you on the documentary. Half the documentary is basically you and your relationship with Gilbert. And it's also funny. And you also get to see, which is what I was interested in, is you get to see a lot of the unglamorous kind of side of show business. And actually, like, you know, it reminds me a lot of Nicole and I and her, you know, kind of in your role with me being the Gilbert. So
that's great. That's great. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's just unbelievable what a great job Neil Berkeley, the director, did. It's a crazy story how the whole thing came about. I don't know if you know the story, but basically, I have a very dear friend, Astrid Dorf, who works in TV, and one day she was having lunch, this is many, many years ago, with Neil Berkeley, the director, and he had just finished his last film, and she's about Dan Harmon, the writer director from Community, the show Community. Anyway, when he finished that, Astrid said to him, you know, Neil, what do you want to do now? And he said, well, whenever anybody asks me, I say that I want to make a documentary about Gilbert Gottfried. And she just couldn't believe it. She said, why are you telling me this? And he said, why? You don't like Gilbert? She said, no, his wife is my best friend. And Neil had no idea. And she said, in fact, they live 2 blocks from here if you want to go meet them right now. And Neil just couldn't believe it because for years and years he had pictures of Gilbert up on his wall and his office. It was kind of like the secret, you know. He just always wanted to do this, but he never reached out to the agents or managers or anything.
And so he didn't know you or Gilbert at all?
No, he didn't know us at all, and he didn't know that Astrid was best friends with me.
Wow.
He had no idea. He had no idea. It was like meant to be. So she calls me and says, Neil wants to, can you meet with Neil? And Gilbert figures, well, if I could get a free lunch out of it. So Neil changed his flight and stayed for an extra day and had lunch with Gilbert. And for 2 years, he kept saying, I want to make this movie, and Gilbert wouldn't give him an answer. For 2 years, Gilbert couldn't make a decision because he's so private. And the idea of making a documentary about himself just did not interest him whatsoever. He was like, documentaries are for when you're dead. I don't need this. This is, I don't want to do this. Da, da, da. He could not make a decision. But part of him kind of was interested because he wanted Arlene to have, his sister, to have a chance to be, you know, to be remembered. And she was dying at the time. And so I finally just called Neil and said, listen, come for 1 week. If he's comfortable, he can't make a decision. Come for 1 week. If he's comfortable, stay. And if not, then you tried. The next day, Neil was on a plane, showed up at our apartment, and he didn't leave for a year and a half. Whoa.
Wow.
He just kept shooting. I think he shot over 400 hours or something.
Wow,
like
that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really pulls the veil back. I mean, you up until I saw it, you know, you think of Gilbert one way. Obviously as a public figure, and then y'all did a great job with telling the real story, and with Arlene and you know, his family, and just Gilbert, you know, just the way he is in real life.
You know, it was amazing. It was really a leap of faith. I just really trusted Neil. Looking back, I'm like, what if it turned out crappy? What if? But I just had a really good feeling about Neil. I knew his work, and I really liked him, and I trusted him, and I just knew that he was going to be respectful, and I knew he really understood and loved Gilbert, and he would do the right thing. It was just my gut. I just really trusted him. And he did, and Gilbert was really happy how it turned out. He couldn't believe it. And who knew that his sister had all this archival footage of them from growing up. And, that was really cool to see.
Yeah, that all really tied it together.
Yeah. And I think, also after the whole Aflac thing, the media really beat him up. And it upset me so much because Gilbert's such a good guy. He's such a sweet, sweet, sweet man, and they made him out to be this horrible, horrible human being. And it was really unfair. So part of my goal was to show that, listen, if you're a comedian, you could tell jokes and use humor to help in tough times, but it doesn't mean that you're a bad guy if you tell, jokes that make you cringe.
Right. I think the scene with his sister in the hospital and how that was tied together with using humor to kind of diffuse bad situations, and that was perfect. That was great. Everybody needs to see the documentary because it's really, 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 really good.
Thanks. Yeah, it's on iTunes and Amazon and Hulu. It came out last year.
Great. And where can you find the podcast?
Again, iTunes, Stitcher, Stitcher Premium if you'd like to sign up and get archival episodes, like Weird Al, and oh my God, there's so many. We have over 200. The last 6 months are free. And then if you want to go back farther, you sign up at Stitcher Premium. And then, or gilbertpodcast.com.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, great. I know that you have to run. You're a very busy lady.
This was fun.
Well, thank you very much. It's all of this stuff is so very intriguing to me. And like I said, you guys had a great idea doing the podcast so that you could have fun and kind of learn things and meet people, that you've always wanted to meet and get more of a connection with people. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I really appreciate you just coming on and spending your time and talking with me about this. And it was great to watch your podcast grow and
let's keep watching it grow.
Yes.
And I hope your podcast grow too.
Thank you. I'm just having fun with it. So I think that's, I'm learning a lot and I'm having fun with it. So, I think
that's how it works.
Yeah. It's
great.
Recipe for success. So
awesome.
Great. Thank you again, Dara. I really appreciate it. Tell everybody that I said hi.
I will, Tim. Have a great one.
All right. You too.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Go ahead.